Her name was Leia. She was a princess with the Danish Shonichi and our Vader drawing near. Good morning, cadets. This is Lance here from Cinematic Galaxy, and I am happy to bring you all my review of one of the latest books in the Star Wars canon, which is Leia, Princess of Alderaan. It's by Claudia Gray. Claudia Gray is already a mainstay in Star Wars authors. Regarding Star Wars authors in canon, with her novels Lost Stars, Bloodline, which stars Leia closer to the Force Awakens a few years before, and now Leia. Both Lost Stars and Bloodline are fantastic books that I highly recommend checking out. Even more so after reading Leia. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure. I'm not as well versed in Legends, but was there ever a book or comic where Leia was portrayed as a 16-year-old? She's 19 in A New Hope, but I don't recall her being portrayed this young in anything like that. So that was a fascinating dynamic. And also, as the title indicates, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Alderaan features extremely prominently in this book. In fact, it's the emotional centerpiece of this book. You get used to Alderaan as Leia's home. And that is something that I've wanted for a long time without even realizing I wanted that. So that was cool. We get a little glimpse of it in Revenge of the Sith at the end. But it's such a beautiful planet that, it's a crime kind of that we don't see more of it. And it makes it more heartbreaking that it got blown up in A New Hope, which that shouldn't be a spoiler if you're watching this review. But anyway, going into my thoughts on, just brief synopsis. We basically see Leia become who she is in A New Hope. We see it's a coming-of-age story for her. And we see her go from being a very spirited, young woman, a teenager, to, over not that long of a period of time, really developing into who she becomes and in kind of forming her ideals, becoming more aware of what's actually going on, all the things that are really going on. And without further ado, I love this novel. I thought it was fantastic. Claudia Gray does it again. She does it again, and first of all, Leia. She understands Leia perfectly. She writes her exactly how Carrie Fisher performed her, and it feels like a younger version of her. Also, Bail Organa and Bria Organa. Bria is a character that I really wasn't all that aware of, but I really fell in love with her. She's Leia's adoptive mother, and Bail, we see him as Jimmy Smits in the prequels in Rogue One, is also fantastically written here. And even though they're not her biological parents, they are still her parents through and through. They are her parents 100%, so that was great to see. And what I'll say here is that it's interesting, slight spoiler, maybe not really a spoiler, but Leia knows she's adopted. I don't know if that's ever been stated in canon. If it has, I glossed over those details. I don't know if Bloodline made that clear. She's aware she's adopted. She just doesn't know who her actual parents are. I think that's a little bit of retconning because it changes her line in Return of the Jedi where she says, I remember my mother was very beautiful but sad, and she died shortly after I was born. She's clearly talking about Padme. Somehow she remembers Padme. And I guess the Force is the explanation, and I'm cool with that. That doesn't really bother me. But it's clear that that's what they're talking about now. So that's pretty funny. But yeah, seeing the royal family like that was great. Leia also has supporting characters in her classmates, other kids who are in, I believe, the Imperial Legislature Academy. They're young students. It's kind of like an internship where they go on missions and stuff like that to basically test their fortitude. And I thought that was really great. Those characters were entertaining. And it reminded me in some ways of Harry Potter, seeing the young kids all together. But one prominent character that stands out is Amilyn Holdo, who is actually going to be Laura Dern's character in The Last Jedi. She's one of the students that Leia gets to know. And I won't give you too much about her character because I don't want to spoil her character, but I think she's going to be very interesting in The Last Jedi, let's just say that. I really do. And I'm excited to see her character. In a lot of ways for me, okay, this isn't a spoiler, but she's kind of like the Luna Lovegood of Star Wars. Luna Lovegood, a big character in Harry Potter, one of my favorites. She's like the Luna Lovegood of this, except I think there's going to be more to her than meets the eye. So I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, so what I will say also about Leia is that much like Rebel Rising, which came out a few months ago, the Jyn Erso novel, which is fantastic, by the way, I highly recommend it, and I have a review on my channel. This book isn't heavy on action. It doesn't really contain space battles or lightsaber battles or anything like that. It's a lot of kind of more espionage, but also more dialogue based. And that could be boring, but it's really not. It's actually quite interesting and intriguing. And it's action without being, the big spectacle action. There's a lot going on. That's great. There's a dinner party scene that is fantastic in this book. Oh my word. And also, this book contains a lot of great Easter eggs, as I might have stated earlier, towards the prequels and towards the original trilogy, and obviously some hints and in bits towards The Last Jedi, which is great. It also connects with Bloodline a lot. So it makes me actually want to go back and reread Bloodline, aside from that being a great book, to catch all the connections that it makes. So that's cool. And yeah, there really aren't any negatives I can think about with this novel. What I can say is that Gray clearly is a fan of Leia, and this book just makes Carrie that much more sorely missed. You know, aside from, her being a wonderful person and being such an inspiration to people with mental illnesses and even people without any. She's just people who've suffered addiction. She's a beacon of hope to people everywhere. She still is. And Leia has always been one of my favorite characters, and I always felt she was underrated, but these books have been doing a great job of bringing her back into the forefront and showing people how great of a character Leia really is. And I also will say, not really a spoiler to say that Tarkin is in this book in certain scenes. The scenes with Tarkin and Leia, where they interact, are my favorites of this novel. Some of my favorite Star Wars scenes ever. And I would give anything to see them on film. I would have given anything to see Carrie Fisher and Peter Cushing act out some of these scenes. They are so good. And it also goes to the point I made about great action not necessarily having to be action as we think of it in blockbuster films. Like, there's a lot of action going on in these scenes that is not, it's said between words and facial expressions, and it is great stuff. And I forget just how chilling Tarkin is as a villain until I read stuff like this or see him in A New Hope and Rogue One. So definitely check this out. I need to read his novel still. But all in all, yeah, Leia gets a 10 out of 10 for me. This is a great novel. I'm not sure where it ranks for me among Claudia Gray's books, but it is up there as being one of the best Star Wars books I've read. The ending really sticks the landing. Have you guys read Leia? If you have, let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to know your thoughts about it. You should read it if you haven't. And anyway, thanks as always for watching, and this is Lance from Cinematic Galaxy, signing off.